Bones of the wrist. There's the ulna, the radius, and two bony landmarks are the two styloid processes. And then there are the 8 carpals, starting with the proximal row closest to the thumb. There's the scaphoid, the lunate, the triquetrum, and then the pisiform. And then in the distal row, there's the trapezium, the trapezoid, the capitate, and hamate. An acronym that you can remember these 8 carpals by is some lovers try positions that they can't handle. Articulating with the distal row of the 8 carpals are the 5 metacarpals. The extensor muscles that act on the wrist are the extensor carpi radialis longus, which originates at the lateral condyle of the humerus and inserts on the 2nd metacarpal. The extensor carpi radialis brevis, the extensor digitorum, and the extensor carpi ulnaris all originate at the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. The extensor carpi radialis brevis inserts at the base of the 3rd metacarpal. The extensor digitorum inserts at the base of the 2nd through the 5th phalanges. The extensor carpi ulnaris inserts at the base of the 5th phalange. The extensor indicis originates at the distal end of the ulna and inserts at the extensor digitorum tendon at the 2nd metacarpal. The flexor muscles acting on the wrist are the flexor carpi radialis, the flexor carpi ulnaris, the flexor digitorum superficialis, and the palmaris longus, which all originate at the medial epicondyle of the humerus. The flexor carpi radialis inserts at the base of the 2nd and 3rd metacarpal. The flexor carpi ulnaris inserts at the pisiform hamate and the base of the 5th metacarpal. The flexor digitorum superficialis inserts at the middle phalanges, the 2nd through the 5th. The palmaris longus inserts at the flexor retinaculum. The flexor digitorum profundus originates at the medial 3rd quarters of the ulna and inserts at the base of the distal phalanges. The flexor pollicis longus originates at the interosseous membrane and inserts at the base of the thumb. It cannot be palpated because it is deep to the flexor digitorum profundus.
Movements of the wrist. Flexion occurs from 70 to 90 degrees of normal wrist flexion. The muscles that act on wrist flexion are flexor carpi radialis, flexor carpi ulnaris, palmaris longus, flexor digitorum superficialis. Extension of the wrist. Extension of the wrist for normal range of motion is 65 to 85 degrees. The muscles that act on extension are the extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis, and extensor carpi ulnaris. Ulnar deviation. Normal range of motion for ulnar deviation is 25 to 40 degrees. The muscles that act on ulnar deviation are the extensor carpi ulnaris and flexor carpi ulnaris. Radial deviation of the wrist. Radial deviation for normal range of motion is 15 to 25 degrees. The muscles that act on radial deviation is the extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis, extensor pollicis longus, extensor pollicis brevis, flexor carpi radialis, and abductor pollicis longus.